All right, Baker, time to unveil our, I don't know, usually we don't go full homer on our preseason previews, but I guess we're doing it tonight with the Illinois State Redbirds. Before we dive too far into the season, exhibition game in Champaign, not the exhibition game anybody wanted. Both sides were very shorthanded. And certainly some of the most important tools in Ryan Pedon's toolbox. Just what's the injury update right now on these guys? Because trying to sort of parse words from media day, listening to Coach Pedon, he didn't show many cards, but there wasn't sort of that just optimism of like, it's fine, they'll be back soon. There was a lot of, well, we're hoping. What do you know?
Yeah, first off, Jeff, thanks for having me on. So they're definitely got the injury bug running through the team right now. I know Chase Walker was in a walking boot when they went to Champaign last weekend. The hope is that he'll be ready to rock and roll for the first game against Ohio. I don't know if he's going to be available for the exhibition against Northwestern. I think that's still up in the air. Johnny Kinzinger hasn't played for a little while. I think it was the first week of October they had their red and white scrimmage. He didn't play in that one as well. So from all accounts, it sounds like he's going to be ready to go for the actual regular season opener as well in Ohio. But he's still kind of wait and see approach. Another guy, Cam Barnes, he was in a walking boot during the red and white game. He's hoping to be back at some point this season. Ty Pence hurt his hand. We don't know how that's going to play out and how long he's going to be out for yet. It's a constant struggle with Redbird basketball and the injury bug. But the plus on the plus side, Jeff, it sounds like everybody should be good to go for the opener against Ohio. And I think if you're Ryan Pedon, that's what's really important to you right now.
My alma mater, the Fighting Bobcats. I don't know. That's going to be awesome over there for them this year. So maybe a shorthanded Redbird squad can go over there and get a win.
Top 25 mid-major team going in the preseason. So you can't overlook anyone.
Nobody just walks into the Convocation Center in Athens, Ohio, and thinks they're getting out of there unscathed. So, all right, back in, I guess, did it go to April? CBI champions a season ago, 22 wins. One of the few teams in the country that got to end the year with a championship, or at least just win your last game as much as anything. Just from a fan base standpoint, that felt like the moment of, a bunch of guys ultimately came back, but that seemed to accelerate hey, everybody's back. I think we might actually be good next year. Is that a fair assessment from up north?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, it's funny. A lot of people in the Valley circles kind of laughed at the idea they were going to go to the CBI, especially when you looked at the field that was around. It wasn't a great CBI field last year. But I think for a team who, under Ryan Pedon's 1-3 in St. Louis, has not had postseason success, it was really, sometimes, it's nice to just see the ball go in and have a little bit of postseason success. And I think that kind of accelerated the idea of this team being pretty good. I think that those guys that are all coming back got to see that success. And I don't think that I'm guessing here. It sounds like that seeing that success with this group encouraged a lot of guys to really want to be a part of this program and come back, because a lot of those announcements were actually after the CBI.
Right. Is it counterpoint? 10-10 in the Valley, fifth place. Don't get to Saturday. Yep, you won a mid-major tournament at the end. You got to win. Yep, everybody's coming back off a team that went 10-10 in the Valley and didn't get to the weekend. Where is the optimism from, other than just a maybe built-in inherent belief that everybody's going to get better over the summer? So a team that, absolutely all the credit to Ryan Pedon from the day he walked in, the stair steps that they have built, that it's just like this progression is going to continue. And now we've got some guys with retention that we feel like we can really punch through and get to the next level.
So there's a couple of reasons, Jeff. First and foremost, obviously the bell of the ball here with the Redbirds. You're bringing back arguably the two best players from last year that are coming back to league, and Johnny Kinzinger and Chase Walker. That's huge. No one else has a first team or a second team player coming back. So that's one big thing. And seeing them develop year 1 to year 2, I think people expect them to take even another jump going into year number 3. The freshman class that they brought in is one of the most talented freshman classes in Illinois State history, as long as I've been a fan. So I think that's also bringing a lot of excitement. The one that people, I don't know if they're really talking about, is we actually get to play Bowdoin Scunberg this year.
Yes.
He's actually going to be on the team. He's arguably their third best player. I saw him in the red and white game, and when he got the ball, anytime he wanted to do what he wanted, he could get his shot. He was so good. It was the all-conference Summit League player that we knew we were getting last year that we just never got to see on the floor. And it's like this is this gem of a transfer portal player that has been with the program for a whole year. And I mean, he's the third best player on this team. I think it's pretty clear cut. And he's going to be a difference maker, Jeff.
I tagged him as one of the key additions in air quotes, just that you never got to see him last year. And it's sort of this like, oh, hey, by the way, don't forget about this dude who was awesome at North Dakota State 2 years ago and maybe was better 3 years ago with them, that you finally got him healthy. And, man, he can come in and be a home run hitter for you.
Yeah, he was over 14 points a game at North Dakota State. He was all Summit League player. He's going to start immediately. He can handle the basketball, which I think takes a little bit of pressure off Johnny Kinzinger. I think it's nice to have multiple ball handlers on the floor for an Illinois State, especially with a guy like Johnny, where he can play on and off the ball. It's kind of like similar that it was nice to have Dalton Banks last year. I think you get an upgrade even with Bowden Scumberg, who can score the basketball himself. So it's going to be really nice, a Redbird fan, to really have that third option who's like it's an A option. He's another A option on this roster. And it's going to be that. And that's the part, to your point, against Illinois State from last year. They were a fifth place team. They were a fifth place team without their prize transfer portal player.
Departures, not many. Everybody came back. Everybody's all excited. You do graduate a couple of seniors, Dalton Banks and Malachi Poindexter specifically. Dalton, the guy, was around the Valley forever, 3 years, obviously, at SIU, the last two there with the Redbirds. Just from a maybe experience standpoint, and you got guys on the rise, but for a guy that was just such a double-digit scorer, and you just that bulldog type guy that, and I know it probably hurts you a little bit when Vance wants to hammer you about SIU, but just that inherent Saluki toughness that stayed in the Valley to lose that. What kind of void does his departure leave for Coach Beaton?
I think it's a huge defensive loss. And I think that's going to be one of the big questions with Illinois State this year. I think we have a lot of talent to put the ball in the basket. I think we're losing some of our Bulldogs on defense. Him and Poindexter were very good on the ball, especially Dalton Banks. He was one of the best on-the-ball defenders in the league. I think he was all-defensive team last year. So losing him and his leadership out there, that's a huge factor. So I think that obviously losing the leadership is one big thing, but to me, like, the big part about losing them is losing that defensive presence out there. We talked about there's going to be a lot of teams in the Valley that aren't going to be great defensively, and you're going to have to score 90 points. So is that the recipe for the Redbirds? Who knows?
Guys coming back, and I feel like it's just, to your point earlier, it's just the guys, the tip of the spear there at the top. And first of all, do you know, if you know his name, and I should have found this out already, who's the strength and conditioning coach at Illinois State University for the men's basketball program? Do you know his name off the top of your head?
I'm going to know it as soon as we hit.
I'm going to find it, because this dude deserves a raise as much as anything. Chase Walker, the pictures going on around him, that whatever he was in high school, the 350, 400 pounds, that he is now a chiseled 260 and just looks like a freak of nature. He is, if we still did these types of things in the Valley, the preseason player of the year for sure this season. How do you think he is going to handle now, as I like to call it, the burden of expectations that, buddy, you're the best guy in this league. We need you to take us to the finish line. How's he going to be able to handle that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, field of 68, mid-major player, preseason player of the year. He has all the accolades coming in. He was a great big man last year, first team, well-deserved. I think it's going to be an interesting year, though. If you look up and down the Valley, there's a lot of teams that, even in kind of the middle part of the Valley, whether it's in Evansville or UIC, that have a lot of really good defensive bigs and are going to be really good on the front court. So he's going to get everybody's best shot this year too, which is another piece of the puzzle, which is why, as good as Chase Walker is, I think for this team to reach the kind of preseason hype, I think it's going to have to come from Johnny Kinzinger being the best player on this team.
Am I reading the room right, that it feels like Johnny is kind of, not that he's taken a back seat, I just feel like kind of all the chatter and everything about Illinois State has been Chase Walker. And it's like, hey, oh, by the way, we still got this dude over here who, encapsulated American Badass there with the situation. And I mean, he's as good as there is in this league. It just doesn't feel like he's maybe necessarily gotten the, April, May, June, July flowers that his counterpart got.
I mean, he's 14.6 points per game last year. He was one of the best guards in the Valley, period. You're right. He is taking kind of a backseat attention-wise from Chase. Chase deserves the hype. He was a first teamer. That goes without saying. But Johnny was really good, especially late in the year. He really kind of willed that team to some wins. I actually remember when they were on the road at Murray State last year. He kind of had a really solid game there, and that was when he turned his season around and kind of turned things up. You can make a case for Trey Campbell, but he's probably the best guard on paper in the league going into the season. So I think that's a good thing, though. I think a lot of the attention is going to be on Chase Walker, which understandable, but he can come in and he can change a game on his own.
Looking at the schedule, it is, as you've probably heard me prattle on for 6 months about everything's about the metrics. Everything's about what can we do to be a multi-bid conference again. Certainly Illinois State comes in with, look, you're the preseason pick. You should be the team that should be worried about, or at least people are worrying about for you, being an at-large team if things don't work out in St. Louis. It is as fascinating of a schedule maybe as there is in the league, in that nobody in the Valley is getting power schools, and Illinois State did. Now, and Ryan Peden made a joke of it.
Jeff, Evansville's getting power schools.
Yeah, let me take that back. The top of the league. And that was my other point too. Was the rest of college basketball is telling on themselves about the Valley, of who they believe is good in the Valley, and that the top 5 or 6 teams are not getting power schools. No. Illinois State is getting USC in Los Angeles, which I still think is an awesome situation, because if memory serves, it's Arizona UCLA in the second game of that doubleheader. Nobody from USC is going to go. No fan. I don't know how many fans they have. They're not going to this event. But if Illinois State gets in the second half and the Arizona folks start showing up and the UCLA folks start showing up, it's a home game for the Redbirds, no question, and a huge opportunity to pick one off. You go play Utah State, again, another essential road game out in Salt Lake City, I believe it is. How did Ryan Peden get USC? How did he pull this one off? Because this was remarkable that it's the only power school anybody at the top is really playing.
Yeah, I think it just worked out that he had a relationship with the coach there. And he mentioned it to us on our podcast. We had him on this past summer. I mean, I think he called 80 different Power 5 schools, and no one wanted to play him. Yep. And they didn't beat around the bush. They just didn't want to play him. So he was lucky to get the USC game. That's a really cool situation for them, going out and playing USC and then playing 2 days later, playing Long Beach State out there. It's kind of like a mini NCAA, like first round, second round site. It kind of gives them that taste of, hey, we're going to go out to California. We're going to play a couple games. Let's see how that works out. Also, going to play Utah State, who's going to be one of the powerhouses in the Mountain West this year. That's a huge matchup going to Salt Lake City. I hope Chase Walker is ready to go conditioning wise, because that's going to be that little bit of the altitude to deal with in Utah. Sure. But no, for what he could do, I know he took a lot of the scheduling into his own hands this year, Coach Peden, and I think what he's put together is pretty good. I think he put together as strong a schedule as he possibly could have for a team who's the favorite on paper in the Missouri Valley.
Illinois State was crowned the preseason champion on April 1st. And it has been almost 7 months of, look, you guys, to your point from earlier, you got 2 all-league guys back. You've got the most, on April 1st, nobody knew what anybody else was filling around the edges, going into the portal and so on. And so certainly some minds can change, but I think people have held tight to Illinois State. If we take the Redbirds off the table, when you look around the Valley, who in your mind is coming for the crown this year and has an opportunity to play the Redbirds on Sunday in St. Louis?
So I think the answer to how many teams can win this league, I think, is 7. I think there's a scenario where 7 different teams could make a case.
Who's the 8th that doesn't? UIC?
I have Indiana State at 8.
Indiana State at 8.
Uh-huh.
Not 11.
Not 11. Sterling Young, newcomer of the year. That's my hot take for you.
Florida A&M, yes. Awesome.
Yeah, he's going to be really good.
Who's 9 then?
So my 8, 9, 10, 11 is Indiana State, Evansville, UIC, and Valpo.
Okay, so UIC all the way down to 10. All right. All right.
But so to answer your question about who's coming for the crown, my 2-3 is Northern Iowa and Murray State. I think Northern Iowa, they're returning a lot of guys. Their biggest question is kind of inside. Is Hornseth going to be good enough to be a 5 in this league with some of these other teams, whether you play in Murray State with a Fred King, whether you play against Evansville with their guys, big guys with Turnbull and Hughes? Can they last? Can he last as your big man in the middle? I don't know, but they've got really good guards in Bond. RJ Taylor's coming back. Schwager's awesome. That's going to be a really good team, but obviously well coached with Ben Jacobson. I think Murray State's the other team that scares me to death as a Redbird fan. I think that we've seen Murray State flip the roster 2 years in a row, and obviously that was under Coach Prohm. This is a completely different deal under Coach Miller. This is going to be a really good team. I think that they have the highest ceiling of anyone in the Valley. If you look at their roster, they're so talented. So many different guys can beat you every night. We were talking before we got on here. Javon Jackson's a guy that was arguably UIC's best player last year during the regular season, and no one's talking about him at Murray State.
Nope.
But you definitely need to respect him. That's going to be a really good team. They have, to me, the highest ceiling, but also seeing how things went the last couple of years and how hard it is in the Valley to completely flip a roster and how it hasn't been done at Murray State. They probably have a lower floor than a lot of those top 7 teams because maybe it doesn't work out in the first year. To me, I think I would bet more money on Northern Iowa being in the top 4 for sure. But if you were going to tell me who's the scariest team in the Valley outside Illinois State, it's got to be Murray State.
From your lips to God's ears, as I said earlier. God bless you. Belmont, any Tyler Lundblad? You talk about the best guard in the league. I mean, I feel like he's knocking on the door for that. But again, they lost a lot off of last year's team, and but it's funny as the year goes on because you got again going to the champion of April where hey we brought everybody back, but it's like. Man, Northern Iowa's got 11 guys back, and Belmont's got a ton of guys back as well. And it just felt like you guys were – but I think the point that why you were such the bullet was it was the Walker and it was the Kinziger at the top of that pile that, yeah, you may have 10 guys back, Belmont, but it's not the tippy-top guys that we see in normal.
It was the tippy top guys, and then one of the best transfers coming in with Bowden Scumberg. Like that combination of those 3 was really what put Illinois State over the top. As for Belmont, to me, the big question for me, I don't love Belmont this year. I'll be honest with you. I'm probably lower on Belmont than most. I think they're obviously in the top 7, and as good a shooter as Tyler Lundblad is, and he's I'd say arguably the best shooter in the league. I don't think that's going out on a limb too much. But who's going to be 1B? Right. Or who needs and to me, I feel like for Belmont to be successful, Tyler Lundblad needs to be 1B and someone needs to be his 1A. And I don't see that obvious choice this year. Last year they had Jonathan Pierre. I don't know if we thought he was going to be as good as he was. He ended up being awesome. Right. He was a fantastic player. They lose a guy like Carter Witt, who he really was one of those guys who had the ball a lot. And I think because those two were so good and were be able to get their own shots, they made things so much easier for Tyler Lundblad. So now is Tyler Lundblad your A player, and can that work as him just being a pure shooter? I don't know. I like Sam Warren. I like Drew Charnowski. I think those are a couple of guys coming back that I'm really excited to see. But I would put them kind of in the middle toward the bottom of that 7.
Wow. All right. Coming in hot, Baker today. Hot. I love it. All right. Last question before I let you go. Put your fan hat on fully right now. I don't need objective March to the Arch podcast guys at all. I don't know how objective you are half the time. It's you choking out your SIU brethren there. But is this we cut down the nets in St. Louis or bust season for Illinois State?
No question. If you're an Illinois, so here's the reason I say that, Jeff. As an Illinois State fan, a regular season title, it would be cool, but that doesn't mean anything to Illinois State fans. It's getting back to the tournament. I think Illinois State fans, if you told them, hey, we're going to finish 7th, but we're going to cut down the nets in St. Louis, they say, sign us up today.
Love it.
So it is a situation where the expectation and the thought on the fan base is just it's what we do in St. Louis. And or we do have a schedule that if we do really well in the non-conference, have a great regular season, I would say could put us in potential spot for an at-large, depending on how things go. So, but yeah, it's NCAA tournament or bust. Our NIL collective is called the 1998 Club, Jeff, because since 1998 we've been to the NCAA tournament. So it is absolutely top of mind for Redbird fans at all times.
I graduated from college in 1998. It's been a minute. I barely had email at that point. So yes, it has been a while. John Baker, March to the Arch podcast. Please plug you and your boy where we can find all your work.
Yeah, you guys can find us on Twitter at March Arch Pod. March Arch Baker is my Twitter handle. We are March to the Arch Podcast. We usually, during the regular season, we're going to be once a week, depending on how the schedule works, because, Jeff, the schedule is kind of a nightmare this year.
It is very much.
Which how we're going to release our podcast. But we usually try to have awesome guests, which hopefully Jeff's one of those guests coming on soon here in a matter of months. But, yeah, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find our show.